All the moms in the house, moms are an important thing in our life. How many of you realize that? Okay, let me break this down. Without them, you would not be here. They're pretty important. All right, I'm just going to tell you that right now. If that's news to you, come see me afterwards. I dealt with teenagers for a long time. We talked about birds and bees, everything, so I can help you out. Moms are really important in this whole process. You would not be here without them. But moms also are really important because they give you life advice. How many of you have some life advice that your mom has given you? Okay, so let me read you a few really great mom life advice. My mother taught me to appreciate a job well done. She always used to say, if you're going to kill each other, do it outside. I just finished cleaning the house. My mother taught me religion. You better pray that this will come out of the carpet. My mother taught me about time travel. If you don't straighten up, I'm going to knock you into the middle of next week. My mother taught me foresight. Make sure you wear clean underwear just in case you're in a traffic accident. My mother taught me irony. Keep crying and I'll give you something to cry about. My mother taught me the science of osmosis. Shut your mouth and eat your vegetables. My mother taught me about anticipation. Just wait till we get home. My mom also taught me about medical science. If you don't stop crossing your eyes, they're going to stick that way. How many of you, your mom told you not to cross your eyes because they were going to stick that way? How many of you are all still okay? Now you're questioning everything your mother ever said. How many of you have those sayings that your mom said that really annoyed you like most of your growing up years? Just raise your hand, be real honest. And then how many of you realize that you very quickly in parenting became a broken record and have said the same things? And that which used to annoy you has now become your mantra. I mean, we just kind of carry it on. And guess what? I have really great news. Your kid's going to repeat after you too. They will tell their kids, your grandkids, the same thing that you're telling. Moms are great. They always have some great things. Let me earn some really quick brownie points. Number one, I am married to the best mom in the world. My wife is the most phenomenal mother ever. I was raised by the best mom in the world. Moms watching online. and I have the greatest mother-in-law in the world. Right there, I scored all 3 brownie points in one sermon. That's great. We should pray and close. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. This morning, I want to honor all of the moms, and I'm going to preach to the moms this morning. And it's a message I think that everybody will grow from, everybody will glean. And so we're going to allow everyone else in the room to eavesdrop. Is that all right, moms? All right, good. I got 3 yeses. Other than that, you still have to listen anyway, so you're good. But this message is for the moms, and we're going to let everybody eavesdrop. Because I think these things that we look at in the book of Psalms, and if you would go to Psalm 139. Psalm 139, we're in the series Wisdom and Worship because I really believe that as we regain perspective and refocus during worship, God can drop some nuggets and some thoughts and some wisdom in our life. And I don't think it's by accident that the Word of God lines up Psalms and then Proverbs because you have this amazing worship melody through the life of David, and then you get these amazing wisdom principles through the life of Solomon. And so I really do believe that if you will posture yourself in worship, God has a great opportunity to speak wisdom into your life. And so we're going to look at Psalm 139 this morning, and this is a psalm that everybody knows, and there's some specific things that we'll look at and read that you'll be like, oh, I did know that one. But I'm going to look at, and we're going to only actually do half of this psalm this morning, and there's 3 things that I want to kind of go over this morning, and that is that in worship, there are some things that will hinder our worship, and that is your choices, your circumstances, and your comparisons. And this goes for moms too. There are some things that will kind of handicap you as a mom, and that is if you let your choices, your circumstance, or comparison keep you from doing what God has for you, then it will hinder you, it will handicap you as a mom. And so as we look at this, David kind of lines it up, and he does a really great job of laying this out, and we're going to look at it. But I want to show you these 2 commercials because I want them to kind of be a seed that you will think about for the rest of the message. I really hope I don't lose you. But would you show these 2 clips really quickly?
4th down, Coach. What do we do?
I'll tell you what we do.
I want you to go on the field. Look for anyone with an O.
Let's kill them with kindness. Jimmy, I want you to make balloon animals. Tyler, make little tea cozy, something fun.
Are you okay?
We will win this for Mother Russia!
Coach, eat a Snickers.
Why is that, Chief?
You get a little loopy when you're hungry. Better?
Better.
Now let's go for it!
Go get him, guys.
You're not you when you're hungry. Snickers satisfies.
Marcia, what happened?
Peter hit me in the nose with a football. I can't go to the dance like this.
Well, I'm sure it was an accident, sweetheart.
An eye for an eye. That's what Dad always says.
I never said that, honey.
Shut up! Time to teach Peter a lesson.
Marcia, eat a Snickers.
Why?
You get a little hostile when you're hungry. Better? Better.
Marcia, Marcia, Marcia.
Jan, this isn't about you.
It never is.
Snickers a few years ago came out with this series of commercials which became one of the top for even the Super Bowl, that you're just not you when you're hungry. And this morning, we actually have a Snickers bar for each of the moms in the house. And because I really want to kind of reframe that. And I want to say, you're just not you when you haven't spent time in worship. And you know what's interesting about Snickers is they come in these different sizes. So let me help you out with the Snickers sizes. You have Snicker Minis. They're like this big. You have Snickers snack size, you have full size, you have king size, and then you get them in the 18-pack, which is great. I just really recommend going all the way in for the 18-pack. But Snickers comes in different sizes, mini, snack, full size, king size, 18-pack. And what's interesting about the Snickers is how many of you, and let's just really be honest, the minis just do not satisfy you, all right? I just really feel like this is freeing right now, and in a little while, we're going to pray over these, which means they will have no calories. They are holy and anointed. You can eat as many of them as you want, forever and always. But anyways, but minis do not satisfy you. I mean, you spend more calories opening every little one that you're going to eat than you do actually eating. So really, it's more of a healthy food diet when you're eating the minis. But you take that mini and you pop it, it doesn't satisfy you. Even the snack size, you would have to eat like 6 of the minis to equal a full size. You'd have to eat 3 of the snack size to equal a full size. So you might as well just go all the way to the 18-pack. I'm just saying. Just jump right there. And that's sometimes how we approach worship. And that's where we're going to be this morning. And I showed you those clips because it's funny, this series of commercials that Snickers put out, they were always like, you're hostile when you're hungry. You're just not yourself when you're hungry. Can I just tell you, even moms in the house, when you have not worshiped, you're just not yourself. Because worship helps us reframe everything that we're walking through. It helps with our perspective and all of that. And I just want to tell you right now, the minis won't satisfy you. But sometimes that's how we approach worship. Well, I got the mini. That's good. Minis do not satisfy you. It's just not enough. It's not enough calories. It's not enough sugar. I am a big proponent in the more sugar, the better, so it's great. But minis don't do it. Sunday mornings is really, when you think about the hours in a week and you think about the time span of a week and what we spend in worship on Sundays, Sunday morning worship is a mini in our life of worship. And it's not gonna satisfy you. It's not going to fill you. And you say, well, I listen to, but I listen to 88.7 on the way to church. Doesn't that get me to the snack size? No, I'm sorry, it doesn't. Worship is more than just the moments that we can steal. It's a lifestyle, and that's kind of where we're going to look at this morning. David writes Psalm 139, and it's really incredible because he goes through a progression of thought, and that's where we're going to follow this morning. So I'm going to talk to the moms again this morning. Everybody else, you guys can eavesdrop, and I am thankful for a mom who prayed for me. I am thankful that my mom, even though my choices weren't always great, my circumstances weren't great, were not the depending factor on whether or not my mama loved me. How many of you are thankful that that didn't make your mama love you more or less? Hallelujah. The rest of you, you must have been perfect child. You were the first children that was born in their life because first kids are always perfect. Do I have any second children, third or fourth? You were not the oldest. I just want to tell you right now, your older sibling, they were just perfect. I'm just saying. Being a youngest child, I can say that. It's great. David writes this, "You have searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise, you perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with all of my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you, Lord, know it completely. You hem me in behind and before, and you lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. This morning, as we talk about choices and circumstances and comparison, these three things I really think can, again, handicap and hinder us as moms. It can hinder us as dads, and most of all, it can hinder our worship. And David, at the very beginning of this 1 through 6, he says this: "You searched me and you know me." How many of you realize moms know things? If you didn't know this, this is really going to be big news to you. Moms know things before they even happen. Moms do not have eyes in the back of their heads. They have X-ray vision that sees everything through walls thick and thin. How many of you remember, like, when you're a kid and something was happening in the next room and mom would holler out and she would know what was happening at that moment? Moms have this incredible way of knowing things. And what's great is David writes this and he's like, not only, God, do you know things, you know the thought process of the things that I'm about ready to say. David says, you search me and you know me. You know my thoughts, even from afar. You know things. And moms are really incredible. When I was growing up, and I'm going to tell a few stories, and if you've been around CLA for a long time, I've only been here 15, going on 16 years, so you're going to hear a couple of stories, and some of them will stick out. But when I was in high school, I had a 68 Chevy truck, and I had a Callaway Golf Club Big Bertha driver, and I had broken the shaft of the Big Bertha driver. I sent it back to Callaway, got it all fixed up. It was like a brand new club, and I had a 68 Chevy truck. So I took the Callaway Big Bertha Golf Club that was just redone and brand new, and I sold it, and I got the money to take my truck to the muffler shop and have both of the True Dual exhausts off of the block cut off and glass packs put on. That means nothing to some of you, but to a few people in here, you're like, yeah. Because glass packs are the thing that don't make your vehicle quieter. It makes it louder. I mean, like rumble loud. And so I had a 305 board out to a 350 on my 68 Chevy. I put 32-inch tires on the back. I had regular tires in the front, had a rake sit to it. It was awesome. And so I thought I was just it. I would pull up in parking lots, and I would just like pop the clutch in and rev it, and car alarms would go off because of the rumble of the truck. It was like, I mean, it sounded like the thing was dying, but it was awesome. And so it was great, except, number one, my parents didn't know I sold the golf club, and number two, my parents didn't know I had made the appointment at the muffler shop. So when I got it put on, I went and sat outside my dad's job, and I just waited for my dad to get off work. And as I saw him coming out of his business, he was coming out and he was walking on the sidewalk. I just like pushed the clutch in and started that bad boy up. My dad didn't even stop or even look at me, kept walking to his car, got in the car and drove away. Didn't say a word to me. Oh, he was so happy with me. But I remember, like, again, if you never drove, how many of you have driven a stick shift before? Okay. How many of you have never been around a stick shift before? You just like, nope, it's automatic all the way. Okay, great. So a few of you, this will be great information. The rest of you can validate that this is true. In a stick shift, because of the transmission, you can push the clutch in, pop it in neutral, turn the car completely off. Now, if you have power steering, then you lose power steering. However, a 68 Chevy never had power steering in the first place. So when I would come home late at night, and because this is broadcast, my kids watched this, and they were in the first service. I will not say what time, so they do not have ammunition against me as their father as they are becoming teenagers. But as I would come in later than dusk, and so I would literally, like 3 blocks up from the house, I would pop the clutch in, turn the truck off, and coast 3 or 4 blocks until I was home, so that my mom and my dad would not know necessarily what time I had gotten home. And how many of you in your house, you knew all of the creeks? And some of y'all know where I'm going with this. We're going to have an altar call in just a moment for your choices that you've made in life. But you knew all the creaks and the cracks and all of that. You knew that if you put the key in, if you twisted it and lifted up just enough, you would get the creak out of the hinge enough. And so I would come rolling, literally just rolling home, not driving home, rolling home. And I would get in front of the house, close the door, and I would walk up to the house, lift the doorknob, twist it just a little bit, get that most of the creak out of it, and I'd step in, and there's my mom. Hey, Craig, just waiting up praying for you. And then some nights I would get home and no mama right there, and I would get up the next morning and I'd walk upstairs to the kitchen, and my mom would be like, oh, you came home at, and she would say the time. She's like, I was laying in bed, hadn't fallen asleep yet, just waiting for you. I mean, my mom was always praying for the choices that I made, even when she didn't know what choices I was making. Moms have this I don't want to call it a sick intuition, but it is messed up how well you guys know things. But it's also incredible how you have this unending, self-sacrificial love for your kids, even though there are times you're praying your guts out because of the choices that they're making. And that's what David is talking about here. David says, God knows me and knows my thought processes as I am delineating the decisions that I'm making. He knows that, and yet he has a self-sacrificial love even when I'm walking. David says, you know me when I sit, when I rise, you perceive me. And then I love this verse. It says in verse number 5, you hem me in behind and before, and you lay your hand upon me. Listen, moms, and again, everybody else that's eavesdropping in here, it would be easy to go back and look at the choices that we made and regret some of the choices that we've made in our life. How many of y'all have some choices that you would go back and redo if you could? But here's what David says. David says, he knows all of my choices. He knows all of the things that I am processing. And he does this. He hems me in behind and before, and you lay your hand upon me. I just want to talk to the moms just for a minute. Listen, if you have some choices and some things that you've gone through in your life, and I really felt this in the first service, and I'm going to say it now. Maybe there's some choices that you look back and you're like, man, I wish I hadn't made this choice in my life because things would be different. But there's also the regretful feeling, I wish I had made this choice earlier in life so it would be different now. What if we changed that and we said, God, you know all about me. You know my comings and going. So God, I'm going to worship you because you're going to lay your hand upon me and you're going to hem me in this moment, not just because of my past moments. There was a mom that went to the doctor and she was in there and she was really having trouble seeing and things weren't clear and it was fuzzy. And so she goes to the doctor and she's meeting with the doctor and he's like, well, we can fix your eyesight. It'll be 20/20. The bad news is that to do this surgery, we're going to have to manipulate some things in your brain to make your eyes work, and so you're going to lose some of your memory. And so the choice is really yours if you want 20/20 sight or if you want memory, because you can't have both, and it's really going to affect it. And she thought about it for a moment, and she says, go ahead and do this surgery. I would rather see where I'm going than just to worry about where I've been. And you know, so moms, I want to tell you right now, maybe you're looking back over your past, you're like, if I had made different choices, then this would have happened. Or if I had made choices earlier, then this would be the case. Can I tell you, don't go down that cycle, because today is a day that God can put his hand upon you and hem you in for today. Because it's really more important about what you're making a decision to do today. Because your choices from your past will hinder your worship, and it will prevent you from being all that God has called you to be for today. So don't let your choices be the thing that holds you back. And then in verse number 7, let's read this. Number 2 is circumstances. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to the heavens, you're there. If I make my bed in the depths, you're there. Verse 9, if I rise on the wings of the dawn, and if I settle on the far side of the sea, even there your hand will guide me, your right hand will uphold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness will hide me, and the light becomes night around me, even the darkness will not be dark to you. The night will shine like the day. The darkness is a light to you. Number 2 this morning was circumstances. You know, it's interesting, the circumstances that we can find ourselves in. You know, and I'm not going to ask, we kind of prayed about it earlier, but it's interesting that we find ourselves in circumstances many times, and those are the moments that we really feel like it's going to define the rest of our life. But how many of you realize circumstances change? Okay, 2 of you. Can I tell you, your circumstance is going to change. One way or the other, your circumstance is going to change. Just like the weather. I mean, I was looking online earlier this week, and I was looking at the forecast, and how many of you know it was 90% rain yesterday, 100% this morning when you woke up? How many of you realize it hasn't rained really yet? The circumstances change, and I don't want to be totally facetious about it, but circumstances change just like the weather. What's going on today, it's amazing how things will change tomorrow. And if you allow only what's happening today to dictate and to determine how things are going, then you're going to miss some of the moments that God is leading to you. For example, mamas, how many of you realize that if you try to put a diaper on your teenager, they are not going to be a fan of that right now? But just a few seasons ago, you were putting diapers on that little hiney, and they were happy because now they got changed. How many of you realize the seasons will shift and the seasons will change? And the greatest thing is to realize that the circumstance that you're in, God's going to meet you. And in this verse, it says, you will uphold me, you will guide me with your right hand. In this circumstance, David says, wherever I go, you're there. I hide, you're there. I run, you're there. But we put ourselves in some interesting circumstances. When I was in high school, it was really cool in the 90s to frost your hair. All right, real quick, just feel like I need some help up here. How many of you know the term, the box, frost and glow? Okay, yep, raise that proud right there. Come on, come on. I am a poster child for you shouldn't have done it. Some of y'all raise your hand. This is what you got to look forward to. So in high school, it was like the cool thing, and I would go and I'd buy the box of Frost and Glow, and you'd put that little shower cap thing, and you'd tie the little thing under your chin, and it had these circle dots. All right, real quickly, so I don't have to explain the whole thing. How many of you know how the process works? Okay, the rest of it, see, there's like 15 more hands, and I just want you to know you didn't raise your hand earlier, and the Lord saw that lie, that you didn't know what we were talking about. So now you just ratted yourself out, okay? But you would put the little cap on, and it had these circles with dots in it all over your head, and they would give you this plastic, almost like a crochet hook. There is more heads going like this than raise their hands. I feel like you're getting freedom just like I am. And so you would put the cap on, you'd stick the little thing in your head, do a little twisty twist, pulley pull, and then you had these little strands of hair sticking out. And the idea was you just get enough of the little strands popping through the shower cap that when you put the little blue and white colors together and you mix them all together, and you would put this Frost and Glow on your head, put the little plastic bag, even though your mom told you all of your life, don't put your plastic bag on your head, you would do it because you're trying to be cool. And so you'd put the bag on, and the heat and the chemical would dye the little doo-doo coming out of your head. Well, I did that for many years in high school. But this one time I decided it was going to take too long to do the cap. It just happened to be Christmas Eve. Wanted to look good for the fam, you know? And so I had this brilliant idea. I would wait, and my dad was never a fan. My mom was never really a fan of, their son frosting and glowing his hair. You were right. Anyway, so I had this brilliant idea. On Christmas Eve of all times, I decided I didn't need the cap. Now, I wanted to wait till my mom and dad were in bed, and y'all know parents stay up really late on Christmas Eve. If they stay up late no other night, Christmas Eve, they're going to be up forever. And Christmas Eve, I'm waiting until they go to bed. It was really late finally, and so I mixed the little blue and the white little jelly stuff together, and I put it in my hand, and I said, this will work. And I just took my hand like that, and I just waved it right through, and I said, they will be so shocked at how good I look. And so I went in my room, and several hours later, I woke up, I ran in, started washing this stuff out, and I had done a really great job of making a skunk stripe because it all just started oozing, and right down the center of my head was a white as white as white. Now, previously, in an earlier point in my life, I had really dark brown hair, and so I had really white skunk stripe with brown hair. Christmas Eve, it's like 5:30 in the morning. I'm washing this out thinking, this circumstance is horrible. So, Christmas morning, I wake up, walk upstairs. My mom's at the sink. Merry Christmas. I mean, my mom, when you think, it was not really the time to say, surprise. I mean, that was, my mom was so disappointed. I mean, I had literally thrown myself into this circumstance, and so she looked at me, and I will forever, my entire life, remember the words of my mom. She said, I just wish you had waited till after we saw the family. Because we were all going to Grandma's house for Christmas morning. And so I got on the phone and I called one of the ladies in our church who was a hairdresser. Her name was Renee Mitchell. And I called her. I said, hey, Renee. And I'm like, Merry Christmas. And she's like, are you okay? I'm like, not really. And so I told her what I did. And when she stopped laughing at me, I said, I need your help. And I said, I got to fix this. This is bad. I've disappointed my parent. Like, I was really honest. Like, I felt horrible, the circumstance. And I'm like, I disappointed my mom. My mom was so mad because, like, we're going. And I'm like, what do I do? And she's like, well, first, go and get another box of hair dye. And make sure you read the back. Don't let it say amber. Don't let it say ash. And she gave me this list of things that don't let it say. Because if you go from bleaching your hair out to white to a little bit of a reddish, you're going to be a fire engine up there. And so she's like, that probably wouldn't be the Christmas spirit cheer that you're trying to bring. So I went to like a CVS. I bought this box of brown hair dye. I went back home. I dyed my hair. And literally, as I was washing it out, we're going to Grandma's house. My scalp hurt so bad. But you know what hurt worse? Is my heart, because I knew I had disappointed my mom. And this circumstance that I had put myself into, I thought I had it, but I put myself in this circumstance that my mom was so disappointed. And you know what? I still got Christmas gifts. My mom still loves me. My mom still talks to me. My mom still likes me. Because oftentimes, the circumstances that even we put ourselves into are only momentary, and it doesn't dictate the love that God has for us. And that's what David says. He goes, where can I go that you're not going to find me? How can I even escape you? You're going to be there. And listen, as David is saying, I am literally, so let me paraphrase it. I am running away from you. And in the middle of it, he says, but you uphold me with your right hand and you hem me in. I mean, think about the power of the love of God in the circumstances that we even put ourselves into. I think that Christmas morning forever will be one of the Christmases that I remember the circumstance. And in each and every one of our lives, we have those moments that we look back on and we're like, if I just hadn't done this, the circumstance would have been different. Moms, I'm telling you, you can look back and you can be like, well, I wish I had done this or I created. Listen, God still takes with his right hand and he upholds you. And I am thankful. As a dad, I'm going to say this. I am so thankful that God is bigger than my parenting. Let me let that settle just for a moment. I am so thankful that God is bigger than my parenting. The moments that I fall short, or even the moments that the circumstances that I create, do you know God is even more powerful to take all the things that is bad, all those circumstances that are bad, like we sang about this morning, and he can turn those moments to good. I don't know how he does it, but I know that even in the circumstances that I put myself into, he somehow brings his right hand right in there, and he says, I'm still going to uphold you. My mom didn't stop loving me the moment I skunked out my hair. She's watching. I hope you still love me, Mom. My mom didn't stop loving me, but she came alongside. She loved me past my moment. Can I just say, moms, I am so thankful that God loves us past our moments. Number 3 this morning, comparisons. David writes this in verse number 13 and 14. For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. I want to just put this out there this morning because when you start comparing, you miss the point. God didn't create you to be anyone else. He didn't create you to be that other mom on the team that makes those little orange slices perfect and somehow she's geometrically always correct. But it's really easy to get in the comparison mode, especially in modern society. when people post pictures, yet you don't see the agony and the tears and the screaming and the yelling just to get that one family photo. All right, come on. Listen, we go through this all the time, and we're going to do it this afternoon. I am sure, dear Jesus, pray for me now. I like pictures. I like having them. But, man, when you got a few kids and you put the family together and somebody is always not smiling. And so sometimes I just have to start. And so, it's interesting because you see all of these social media posts of how great some of the other parents are. Can I say, stop comparing? Because you're fearfully and wonderfully made. Moms, listen, I want to be really just straight up. Stop comparing to other moms. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. Saw one of the greatest video things of Facebook photo popping or whatever it is. And it was this guy sitting there, and he's smiling. And he's like just right behind him is this circle, and you're looking out into the Caribbean. It looked like he was just sitting right there on that airplane flying. He's like so happy to be on vacation. And then as it scrolled and panned out, it was a toilet seat he was holding with the TV behind him. Sometimes we see what everybody else is going through, and I just want to tell you right now, you have no idea what's actually going on in their life. Stop trying to be like them. David says this, I know that I am fearfully and wonderfully made. You knit me together in my mother's womb. Not only were you knit together, but your kids were knit together. Their idiosyncrasies, their joys, their challenges, their delights, all of that, God knit them together. And I am so thankful that there is not one mistake that God makes. And even if you think you're the one that God had his knitting needles out and he's like, nope, let's make this one really tough. I don't like them. You're not that one. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. Does that mean you're perfect? No. Because you're going to make choices and you make circumstances and you're going to have to walk through tough things. But I want to tell you right now, don't compare. The moment you start comparing, it starts to hinder your worship because you don't sing like them, play like them, worship like them, raise your hand like them. And then you start to look around in church and you're like, I don't look like, talk like, be like. And all of a sudden your worship is hindered. Moms, choices, circumstances, and comparisons will hinder your ability to be all that God has created you to be. Maybe your kids are serving the Lord right now. Maybe they're far from God. Stop comparing. Because God's going to do what he needs to do to reach your kids on their level because your decision to follow Christ is not theirs. And he'll do whatever. He loves your kids so much that he will do whatever it takes to speak to their heart. And so there has to come a moment where you say, God, I can't go back and redo my choices. God, I'm in some circumstances. Some of them I have created myself, like skunking out my hair. But God, I'm not going to compare to anyone, but I'm going to trust you that in my circumstance, who you have created me to be, that you're going to do something beyond what I could even imagine. Pastor Shelley, I'm going to ask you to come up. Moms, in just a minute, we're going to give you these Snickers. And here's the thing. I like to do things like this. We could do a bookmark, a flashlight, or something like that. I like to do things that are going to constantly stare at you, not just on that Sunday morning of the specialness. So here's what I hope. I hope that every time that you walk into a grocery store or a gas station, every time you see somebody walking down the road eating one of these, here's what I want you to think. God, I ask you to satisfy me because I'm not me without you. You see, this commercial says, you're not you when you're hungry, you're hostile when you're hungry. I mean, there's a whole line of commercials, and trust me, I picked these out because there are some that I'm like, I would never show them or watch them again. I get it. But the premise that Snickers went with is that if you're not filling up on something, then you're not yourself, or you're hostile, or you're angry, or whatever. And moms, I just want to tell you right now, if you're not filling up on something, then you're not going to be yourself. You'll be hostile. And not only that, again, we're going to pray over these, and you can eat them calorie-free for the rest of your life, mamas. Just kidding. Every time you see a Snickers, Snickers, their slogan is Snickers satisfies. What if every time moms, from now on, from this Mother's Day on, when you see a Snickers, you just take a moment to worship God. Father, I thank you that you are a better parent than I could ever be. God, I thank you that you take all of my mistakes and you make them better. God, I worship you because, God, you fearfully and wonderfully created me. You knit me together, and that little one that's in my arms that I'm trying to raise, God, I love them right now because I know you knit them together, so help me to love them even more. God, I worship you. What if every time you saw the Snickers, moms, you realized where you run to? It's not to social media. Don't run to social media. Because worship changes your perspective. And worship brings you in a place of surrender. Worship brings you to this place where you can actually surrender and say, God, I can't do this by myself. I give it to you. And worship positions you. So every time you see these, every time you see one of these, let it position your heart for a moment. Because when you worship and you position yourself, it positions you for peace. And when you're unsure of the direction or the choices that you need to make next, let worship, just take that moment and say, God, I trust you right now. You're going to come. You're going to hem me in. You're going to take me by your right hand, and you're going to get me to where I need to go. So I trust you, God. What if when you're walking through and every time you saw a Snickers, it put you in a position to worship? Because worship will change your perspective. See, in the middle of your circumstance, and I mentioned this last week, David's Psalms all start off, God, where are you? God, I need you. God, you're so good. That's a progression of his Psalms. Where are you? I know you're here. God, you're so good. What if every time, moms, you saw the Snickers and you're like, God, I thank you that you are good? Because it repositions your perspective. And even when you face difficult circumstances, worship and shifting your mindset to who he is takes your eyes off of what you're facing. What if every time you saw him, you began to worship and say, God, I need you to satisfy me? What if that was every time you saw it, you said, God, I'm going to run to you? Because when the enemy tries to compare you to others, you can remind him, no, I'm sorry, I am handcrafted, specially created. And Lord, I don't need to be like anybody else. And devil, you lose. Because the devil's always going to tell you you're not enough. It's his favorite ploy. You need more. That's what he's always going to tell you, moms. And again, everybody else that's eavesdropping on their special day. I mean, the moms like always get eavesdropped on, right? I mean, you can't go to the bathroom alone. Somebody's eavesdropping. So everybody else is eavesdropping in here. The devil will always tell you you're not enough. That's what he told Adam and Eve. Didn't you know God doesn't want you to do that because you're just not enough without it, and he can always keep you less than? Because if you ate that, you would know the knowledge of good and evil. You just don't have enough. But if you had this, then you're good. Devil's always going to tell you, moms, you're not enough. I just want to tell you right now, when you begin to worship, it puts things into perspective that he is enough when you feel like you're not. He is greater. And here's the thing. Whenever you see this, let it prompt you to run to him. Grocery stores, gas stations, BJ's sells the 48 count, just putting it out there. When I was in like third grade, I had an arch nemesis bully. His name was Willie. And Willie was always picking on me all the time. And there came this one day where I'm like, I've had enough. So after school, I'm like, Willie, you're a chicken. Because that's probably like one of the worst threats you could ever make to a third grader. Now I have chickens. I think they're the greatest thing. I'm like, what a compliment. No, just kidding. But I did. I was like, Willie, you're a chicken. So after school, I'm like, you won't go down the slide. And so we had one of those big metal slides with no barriers back before they took all fun away from kids. And it was like hot in the summer, burn you and scald you all the way down. I mean, it was like we lived back then. So we had this big metal slide, and I'm like, you won't go down that. Oh, yes, I will. Stupid. I'm like, you won't go down it. So after school, we go, I'll meet you at the slide. I'm like, you won't go down it. So he climbs to the top, and he goes sliding down it. And as he gets to the bottom, his feet hit the bottom. And as he stood up, I clenched my fist and just boom, and hit him as hard as I could in the gut. Because I knew this was my moment. Surprise attack, right? Whoa, So Willie falls to the ground, curls up, holding his stomach. And I was like, this is the point. I run. He's getting back up in a minute. Literally, I hit him, and I took off running around the building because I knew that my mom was waiting to pick me up. She never missed a day. She was out there in our blue van, and I knew if I could just get in eyesight of my mom, even if Willie got up and started running, Mama Bear coming out the van, Willie gonna pay for it. I knew if I could just get to Mom, everything was okay. So after I slugged him, he's laying on the ground. I took off running. I get around the corner. I'm like booking it. Get in the van. Run, Mom. Go, go. You know, she's like, what's wrong? I'm like, nothing. You see, what's interesting is that day I had courage because Mom was there. I knew if I could just run to Mom, it's okay. I could face the challenges. I could face the bully because Mom was there. What if every time you saw a Snickers, it reminded you that you got somebody to run to, that he'll satisfy you more than a momentary chocolate sugar rush fix? What if you just saw this and you said, God, I'm going to take off after you because I know that I can defeat every bully, I can defeat every challenge because I know if I can just get to you, it's not going to chase me down. God, I know that if I can just get to you. And you know what? As a third grader, I knew all I had to do was get an eyesight of Mom, and I was going to be okay. It wasn't even really about making it to the van. It was just about letting Mom see me running. And I think that's a really great illustration of even what David was saying in this psalm as he's like, where can I go? Where can I hide? You formed me. You put me together. You knit me together. In other words, as I take steps to you, God, all I got to do is start moving to you. I'm going to ask all of the ladies in the house, moms and not, I just want to honor all of the women in our house today. Would you stand up really quickly? Brad, Jeremy, if you guys would come, and we have these Snicker bars, and then we're going to pray over you. So all the ladies, you can stand up, and what direction you run into is really important. So you can just start handing those out, guys. Thank you so much. Some of y'all are really excited because you're like, it's lunchtime, so praise Jesus, they give us food. Snack size and bite size. The other sizes of the Snicker bars, bite size, minis and bite size and snacks. They're not going to fill you. They're not going to be the thing that satisfies you. So moms, I know that it's really hard to steal away moments sometimes. With the chaos of the house, I get it. But can I just tell you, don't just depend on the bite-sized moments. Don't just depend on the Sunday mornings. Find times in the week to steal away and say, God, I'm going to run to you right now. It doesn't have to be grandiose. It doesn't have to be with fanfare. It's just literally a posture and a positioning of your heart. Because when you start to worship, God's going to give you some wisdom. He's going to give you some of those sayings to say to your kids at the right moment, at the right time, that makes an impact for their entire life. Because He's really the one that satisfies. Father, I thank you for every one of these moms, every one of these ladies that are here today. Lord, you really do satisfy us. So, Lord, I pray that every mom, every lady in this house, Lord, that they would feel your delight and your joy. You knit them together. You crafted them together. I pray, Lord, if they are looking back on their life and there's moments where they feel like, God, I wish I had, or God, I wish we had done this earlier. Father, just break off that baggage this morning. Lord, let today be a day where you put your hand upon them. God, let today be a moment, Lord, where they walk forward with boldness and courage. Lord, whether their kids are still in diapers, whether they're in college, or whether they're off with a family of their own, Lord, let this morning be a morning, God, where you break free of those choices of the past that have hindered their worship to the present.
God, I pray over their circumstances right now. Whatever they're facing, whatever they're walking through, give them strength and trust. God, that you're going to lead them, that you're going to guide them, that this moment and this season is only temporary. But God, when you show up, you can craft things in the middle of those circumstances that will change eternity. So, Father, give them endurance in the momentary circumstances. And Father, I pray that comparison would break off. For every mom in the house and every lady in the house, Lord, I pray that, Lord, from every aspect that the world tells them that they are not enough or they're incapable, I break that off of them and I speak life, over their family, over their marriage, over their kids. I ask you right now that every time that the enemy comes and says, you're just not enough, Lord, I pray that your love would overwhelm them, that it would wash over them, that they would experience the presence and the power of the Holy Spirit to know that they have been handcrafted and designed. Father, I pray that you would turn all circumstances, all choices, and all moments that we feel inferior. Turn them, Lord God, and do something great. So, Lord, we commit, Lord, our children to you. We dedicate them back to you this morning, and I ask you, God, that you would watch over them, that you would supersede our parenting abilities. Lord, that your power would be so relevant to our kids, whether they're in our house or whether they're in their own house. I pray, God, that you would allow them to know who you are, and Lord, that you would speak to them. Bring back to their remembrance the moments that they have experienced with you. Lord, if they've never trusted you, I pray that you would speak to their heart, that you would draw them closer to you. Father, for every parent that is here, that their kids are still in their custody in their own home, oh God, I pray right now that you would guard them, surround them. Lord, that you would be with them when they rise or when they sleep, when they lay their head down, God, that you would speak to them even at a young age and speak life over them. God, I pray that you would keep the enemy from his attacks into their life. God, we ask for a guard to be on them. I ask you, God, that you would keep them, that you would speak to them, that they would know you. God, that they would make a personal decision to trust you. Lord, independent of our relationship with you. So, Father, I pray over these moms today, Lord, be their satisfaction. Lord, when they feel out of sorts, when they feel deficit, God, I pray that they would steal moments to worship. Lord, that it would just readjust their gaze from everything that's chaotic around them to you, who is our sustainer and our stability. Father, I pray that you would go before every single person that's here, even those that eavesdropped on the Mama's Day. Lord, help us to walk past our choices, trust you in our circumstance, and see who you have created us to be, independent from comparison to others. Father, we thank you for today. We ask for your hand to lead us and to guide us in Jesus' precious name. And everybody said this morning, amen. Amen. Ladies, we are so thankful that you're here with us this morning. Please make sure you take a picture before you go. May God bless you. Have an incredible Mother's Day. Love you guys.